Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight as we host our first kickoff Bobcat-to-Bobcat event of the year. My name is Anthony Marisola, and I'm a student representative for the Comms Alumni Advisory Council. Tonight's topic, titled Communication and Community Engagement, will be brought to us by 4 outstanding and highly accomplished Comms alumni, who we are grateful to have with us tonight. Starting off, please welcome Emily Gilgoff. Emily Gilgoff is currently serving as the Director of Civil Society Affairs in the Embassy of Israel to the United States in Washington, D.C. Originally from Cincinnati, she graduated from Ohio University in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in communications and public advocacy with certificates in women's gender and sexuality studies. After college, Emily moved home to begin her professional career as the Young Adult Community Coordinator at the Jewish Foundation of Cincinnati, where she learned the art of community engagement and volunteer management. In 2018, she accepted her current role at the Embassy of Israel, where she monitors anti-Semitism and extremism while overseeing communications and outreach to progressive communities, women's groups, and civil rights organizations. In Emily's free time, she enjoys performing jazz covers at local DC bars, consuming any form of true crime media, and stopping people on the street to pet their dogs.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I'm really excited to be here today. That was a great introduction. So I guess I'm kicking off. I will begin, I think, by kind of defining what community engagement means to me. In my current role, I do a lot of that, but it didn't begin with what I'm doing now. It all sort of actually started at OU when I was in my undergraduate degree. And I always knew I really liked talking to people, and I really knew I wanted to do like some type of community outreach, but I didn't really know what that meant. To me, it means connecting with people and organizations for a particular cause. So it began for me when I started an internship at Hillel at Ohio University. And for those of you who aren't familiar, it's the Jewish Center for Life. So Jewish students can go to the Hillel on campus and engage with their Jewish identity in whatever way is suitable and comfortable for them. So my internship was about trying to find Jewish students on campus that wanted to engage with this type of, or with their identity in this way. A lot of the time when you grow up Jewish, at least I'm culturally Jewish, I'm not very religious, but you're kind of handed your Jewish identity to you. And then when you go to college, you don't really know how to engage. So if people want to continue to engage with their Jewish identity, sometimes it's hard to find pathways to do that. So my role was to go out there, connect with Jewish students on campus and learn how they'd like to be engaged. Do they like certain events? Do they have interests in politics? Do they like music? How can we get them to engage with their Jewish identity in the way that is suitable to them? So I really enjoyed this work and it really excited me, and I realized I was pretty good at it. So I continued this work after I graduated, and I ended up taking a role as the Young Adult Community Coordinator at the Jewish Federation of Cincinnati, which was mentioned. And in this role, it was all about community engagement. I mean, the whole idea around a federation, or the Jewish Federation specifically, is to sustain the Jewish community and to eventually find future donors so that they can, continue their work. And my role as the Young Adult Community Coordinator was, again, to go out to the community, determine, okay, here are the group of Jews that want to engage in the community. How do they want to do this in the way that suits them? So determining what are the interests of our community. What do young adults look for? Are they married? Are they not married? Sort of doing, in a way, research and development by going out into the community, having coffee meetings, connecting with people that are interested, and then trying to sort of cultivate them in that way. So, and then eventually with the goal of getting them so involved that they want to contribute monetarily to the organization. So this I really enjoyed. We actually did formal research and development, which was really helpful when doing community engagement. Not everyone is able to do it. It depends on the type of organization you work for, but we were able to bring together young adult Jewish community members and their partners, Jewish or not, and convene them to discuss, what do you like to do? How would you like to be engaged? Is it religious for you? Is it cultural for you? Is it traditional for you? How do you see yourself as a Jew in this particular location? And how would you like to exercise that? So that was really great. Research and development was awesome, but not everyone gets to do that. So again, it's going out to the community, it's networking, it's connecting to stakeholders, to leaders, finding out who could potentially be a future leader and trying to cultivate that. So I really enjoyed this work more than anything with my communications background, especially. I really like talking to people and sort of trying to meet them where they are at, and not trying to force anything, but just trying to create an organic connection. So with this work, I ended up choosing a different role, which kind of took me in a different direction that was a little bit more political at the Embassy of Israel. But my role is still very much community organizing, community engagement oriented. So I don't know, not everyone maybe is familiar with what embassies do, but essentially we are the foreign presence of the country that we're representing in the country that we are residing in. So in this case, it's the Israeli presence in the capital of the United States. And with that comes visa work and consulate work and diplomacy and trade and really political stuff. But we also have this other department, which is public diplomacy. That's where I work. And the whole concept behind this is each person within my department has particular demographics, particular special interest groups that they're supposed to go out and engage with to create relationships, to create coalition building, to find common values, common interests, common innovations that these communities are working to initiate and create cooperation between them. So I was able to use a lot of the experience that I had in my previous roles to bring to this one. So I work on I have a couple of hats, but one of them, and probably my biggest one now, is doing outreach to women's organizations and LGBT organizations, along with other minority groups, to try and find common values, common interests, and create potentially shared events, programming. I was able to work with one organization that actually works with students who are experiencing homelessness and who are living in challenging socioeconomic situations. And Israel was a great opportunity because we were able to provide tablets for students who couldn't otherwise afford the types of technology that they needed, especially in response to COVID, which was really great. So finding these pathways, these doors to open where we can say, okay, we really care about innovation. Israel really cares about innovation. We also have populations in that country that are struggling with similar things. We want to build our connection to the community where we are living currently, which is DC. And how can we do that? So this was a need we found, and we tried to address it, and it was great. And so from that, we have these new relationships, these new friendships that we were able to foster through this type of organic outreach that was actually really helpful. Regardless of whether we found a friendship at the end of it, which we were lucky enough to, we knew we were helping people, and that was great too, and that is really important to me. So that's been my experience at the Embassy of Israel. And also an example of this too is just to backtrack a little bit, when I talk about women's groups and outreach to the LGBTQIA plus community and other minority groups, sometimes it's also pretty direct too. So I plan the International Women's Day event and our Pride event and other opportunities, like I said, to find shared goals and ensure that we're finding opportunities to cooperate. So that's been, like I said, that's been my role at the Embassy of Israel. And it's been an amazing experience for me so far. And again, especially, you guys probably know this well or better than anyone, that a lot of the time people that want to come into the communications field, they really just like talking to people and being able to make connections face to face, whether that's going on these coffee meetings, networking, and then also maybe you enjoy writing or you enjoy social media and posting and things like that. Your communications degree will be invaluable when it comes to being able to do that stuff in the real world, which was surprising to me, to be honest. I always thought of myself as a good communicator, but until I began studying comms formally as a student at OU, did I really learn the techniques, the technical techniques, the strategies, sometimes even the psychological responses that you might get from a person if you're to have a certain tone, or if you're not to sort of survey the environment that you're in, things like that, that comms really does teach you. So in my education experience at OU, like I said, I was really able to learn those really specific strategic techniques. And I know it might be boring to you right now. I'm sure it was boring to me at times, and no offense to Dr. Aiden. But a comms degree is amazing. It's so broad. You can do so much with it. And it really helped me when it comes to being able to do public speaking, to be able to engage with communities that I'm not a part of, and do it sensitively. A really great thing that I really look back at and enjoy and appreciate, because it gave me real skills, was my intercultural relations communications class. So learning, and I don't know if any of you guys have Dr. Smith, but that's who I had for that particular class. And one thing that I will never forget is like, okay, so you go to a part of the world where maybe you've never been before, maybe you've never met anyone from that part of the world. How do they like to be greeted? What are the other types of cultural norms that they expect? And how can you engage with them in a way that meets them where they are, like I said, and that is respectful? And I think these types of techniques are really, you learn them in comms. I mean, you could Google it, but it's better to have this in-person experience where you're like, where the professors are explaining it to you in a way that you can really apply it in your professional life. We should all be applying those things anyway. And I think that as far also as, like I said, public speaking, but general communications, in the real world, I think you'll be surprised at how few people are actually really good at writing emails. But you'll learn through comms and writing endless papers that you'll become a pretty good writer. You'll be proficient at it. And maybe when you go to your office, you might be better at it than other people. And that's something that you should really harness and continue to work on. And I think, you're on campus right now. You guys are young. You have so much ahead of you and directions that you can go in. But advice that I would give to you now about working on community engagement, learning how to do it, is really just to get out there, step out of your comfort zone, join organizations, attend meetings, volunteer, go to the fairs that they do in College Green, where you can talk to people that you otherwise wouldn't really have talked to before. Maybe go to one of their meetings. I was a part of a feminist group when I was in college, but I was also in an a cappella group. I said, I was a Hillel intern. There's so many ways that you can connect with people, both in your current circle and outside of it. And volunteering is great too. That's always great. You should always keep doing that. And I think asking questions and making sure that, like, as you're learning these skills in a technical way in the classroom, that you're trying to apply them, whether that's sort of tangentially or if it's literal. It's great to flex those muscles. And like I said, take yourself out of your comfort zone. It's good to be afraid. You grow that way. And I think community engagement is a really special field. And I really encourage everyone to explore doing it professionally when you graduated. It's made me really happy. So that's my spiel.
Thank you, Emily. It's amazing to hear more about your experiences and have you with us tonight. All right, introducing our second panelist is Dr. Jeff Tyus. Dr. Tyus graduated Ohio University in 1993 with a bachelor's degree in telecommunications, again in 1995 with a master's degree in telecommunications, and finally in 1999 with a PhD in interpersonal communication. Dr. Tyus is a professor in the Department of Communication at Youngstown State University currently. He is actively involved in the Ohio Communication Association and served as its president from 2004 to 2006. Dr. Tyus was recognized by Youngstown State University as a distinguished professor in service in 2013 and 2018. Dr. Tyus engaged in multiple philanthropic events, including running a half marathon to raise money for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and leading service learning projects that has raised approximately $25,000 for the American Cancer Society. He received the Youngstown State University Student Services Award in April 2021. Back in March of 2020, he led the university's first study abroad venture to Ghana and co-authored a chapter in the Handbook of Election News Coverage and Communication in Ghana in 2022. Outside of his professional accomplishments, Dr. Tyus enjoys sharing pictures and stories about his two dogs, Zola and Jackson. Please welcome Dr. Jeff Tyus.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me? All right, just wanted to make sure. All right, so I'm just here to speak briefly about community engagement, especially for college students. As a professor, I found different ways to get my students involved in community engagement. One of them is something that Anthony just mentioned, which is I teach a media relations campaign course, and there's a service learning component to this course. So as they're learning about putting together a campaign and organizing event, because event planning is part of this course as well, I actually have them plan an event. And believe it or not, I learned from my OU days about the importance of Halloween. And so I always teach this course in the fall. And so what I do is I have this class plan a Halloween costume contest where students participate. We try to get all the students, or we try to get as many students on campus participating. And so they come out, we do it at a restaurant and bar on campus. All right, so there's food and libations, I guess you could say, to set the mood. We have DJs who are also comm students. So this class is involved in the social media component to it, the actual planning. They go out and get gift cards, and they set up like a raffle for gift baskets. So they're involved in the pre-planning, they're involved in the execution on the day of. It's always the last Thursday of the month of October. And then they're involved with the evaluation of it at the end. But I just find it very interesting that after going through all of these various elements of planning an event for community engagement, that when it comes to marketing themselves for the job market, they rarely mention this huge event that they planned, that they played a role in the planning of. So it's almost like they see it as a separate, isolated event for a class, for a grade or whatever, and not something that I could use on my resume to let my employers know that I'm not just a student on campus, but I'm actually engaged in the community and raising funds for an organization in our community. Of course, I chose the American Cancer Society because everyone knows someone who's been impacted by cancer. Anthony mentioned that I ran a half marathon for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, and one of the things that everybody asked was, who do you know with Crohn's or colitis? And I didn't know anyone. It was just an organization that I chose just because each year for me personally, I try to find an organization that I can give back to. So I'm trying to encourage my students to have that same kind of mentality, but I also want them to use it to market themselves as well. There are a lot of things that students do on campus, and Emily's story was an excellent example. Students are engaged with their fraternities. I'm the advisor for our Lambda Pi Eta chapter. So we had our first meeting yesterday, and we were talking about our food pantry on campus, because we have a lot of food insecurity on our campus, where students go hungry when the dining halls close at 6 or 7 o'clock. They go hungry and they don't have food. And so I encouraged our group to think about holding a fundraising drive to stock the food pantry. And that's something that they don't have to do on their own. It's something that they can organize, but get other communication majors involved, and it could be a Department of Communication event, essentially, and so they're organizing it. And then I told them, and then don't forget to put it on your resume. I mean, that says a lot when you are planning something that's impactful for others on a campus. And like I said, too often students see it as an isolated thing. Oh, it's this one-time thing that we're going to do, when it's something that actually had an impact on someone, and it's something that they could use to market themselves. Just to give you a little sense of some of the things that community engagement allows you to build on. It allows you to highlight that you were part of a team, especially if you're working, for example, like I have my Lambda Phi Eta students doing, that you are involved in teamwork, and that says that you are a good team player. And I can tell you right now, as a professor, where I try to get students working in groups for like my research methods course, instead of learning it and doing an individual project, I have them do a group project. College students suck at group work, all right? I mean, I really have to say, I've never had a group that hasn't had a complaint about someone in that group. All right, so if you are able to actually say, hey, I worked as a team member to get this event accomplished, and it had lasting impact. So teamwork is really, really important. You get to learn a little bit about organizational culture as well, all right, about a culture of a particular organization, whether it's you're doing an internship and you're learning about a culture, or you're doing a volunteer and you're learning about a nonprofit and that type of organizational culture. So that's important as well. The role of communication, all right? Oftentimes we have our students are leaders when it comes to communication. And believe it or not, on some campuses, and I'll include mine, the campus look to the communication students to lead certain things, because that's our major, right? So that's the one thing that they expect us to be able to do well. We just had a lecture series, and our first lecturer who came on campus was Tony Hawk, the skater. This was just last week. And two of our communication students were the moderators for this huge lecture in a huge lecture hall, all right? And if they do not put that on their resume, I'm gonna scream, literally, all right? But those are the kind of things that students are forgetting to do. It helps to build network and you working with colleagues. But also, and I'll end with this because I don't wanna speak for too long, those soft skills, especially those things that we don't really think about, those things that may be hard to quantify, all right? Things like empathy, all right? That when you are volunteering and stocking a food pantry, you're showing empathy. You're showing that you care about your fellow students and what goes on in their lives, especially in times when you're not able to see what's going on. I didn't even know that this was an issue on campus until one of my students came and told me that they oftentimes go hungry in the evenings. And this student is an athlete, all right? But there are certain rules. Athletes can't have jobs and things of that prevent them from having money to pay for certain things, even though they're getting their tuition and all that paid for. So soft skills like empathy, developing moral values where you're able to contribute to a community, things like decision making. All right, these are all important skills that you get to develop. And once again, use those to market yourself when you're on the job market. All right, time management skills and things of that nature. All right, so my talk was not only just about community engagement, but how to making sure that you're using your community engagement to market yourself, right? It's not just about what goes on, you know, within a community. It's also about how you're going to contribute to that next community that you find yourself in. All right, because a lot of employers, they're looking for that. They're looking for someone who's not only going to come and do the work, but also be a part of the community and be engaged in that community. And you'd be surprised how many times employers look for community engagement as that differential between you and all the other graduates that also graduated at that time. They're always looking for something that's going to distinguish you. And this could be that one thing, all right? Those opportunities for you to share the ways in which you've engaged in community engagement while you were a student. All right, so Anthony, I'll throw this back to you. And thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Tyus. It was great to hear from you, and appreciate you being with us tonight. And I will hand it off to our other student representative, Amy Chambers.
Thanks, Anthony. Thank you, Dr. Tyus and Emily. Those were amazing. I would like to introduce our third panelist for tonight, Mylan Jackson. He is the DEI Communications Coordinator at Leica Animation Studio. Mylan graduated with his bachelor's in Communication Studies from Ohio University in 2021, spent a year in Chicago volunteering for AmeriCorps, and currently lives in Portland, Oregon. Some of his favorite memories in Athens were at the DEI office with Dr. Gigi Sekibon and Dr. Dwayne Bruce. During his time here, Mylan was an RA, participated in Ohio Fellows, and even did improv with the Black Sheep comedy troupe. He is full of gratitude for his interactions with Dr. Roger Aiden, Dr. Jerry Miller, Dr. Pete Mather, and Dr. Paula Lynn Scott for their support during his academic years and beyond. A few fun facts about Mylan: that he has never broken a bone or had braces, and the agency he currently works for produced 2009's Coraline, which is one of my favorite movies. We're honored and eager to have Mylan speak to us tonight about his experiences with career exploration, taking a gap year, and the internship process.
Amy, all those things are true, and I'm glad that you enjoy Coraline. It's something that we talk about a lot around here. Hey, everybody, and I wanted to talk about a few things. My career path is a little different than my colleagues. Dr. Tyus and Emily are a little further along than I am, but I think I still have something to contribute. So post-grad, I was finding myself, or near post-grad, or near graduation rather, I was finding myself in quite a bind. I had kind of specialized within like a marketing and sales track, and wasn't gleaning the type of satisfaction or fulfillment that I needed from like a career. And one thing that I really lean into is the ability to wake up and get to work and feel really good about it. And I wasn't feeling those things. I did a summer at a mortgage firm, and that was really difficult. And I was leaning I was applying to jobs in like a similar vein, software sales and whatnot. And the real big turning point was during an interview in the spring semester of my senior year. I was interviewing for a software sales position, and the interviewer just told me that she didn't think that I wanted. And she said she could see the light shine in my eyes when I was talking about things like DEI and community engagement, and that she just thought that the type of work that I was applying for wasn't something that I was really called to, and she felt like I was checking boxes, and I was. So I decided to take a year and go to Chicago and engage with AmeriCorps through the City Year program. And it was super amazing, right? Super fulfilling to be engaged with children during their formative years. They're so full of personality. I didn't even know I liked kids as much as I did before last year. I wasn't like an education specialist or whatnot. I TA'd, of course, but working with the youth, it wasn't something I ever envisioned, but it was really amazing. And I took a lot of the lessons that I learned through comms and being engaged at OU, very specifically this notion of servant leadership, or something that me and Dr. Miller went over a ton and during my stint with Ohio Fellows. And we're talking about when you're engaging with the community, especially one that you're not from, you cannot go there with these like grandiose aspirations or the savior complex that you're going to dramatically change life or change the course of what's going on there. Brilliant people much smarter than me have engaged and spent time thinking about the climate in the area. So I just made sure that I was going in knowing that I was there to do the best that I could do and hopefully bring some excitement and joy into these children's lives and support the teachers at the school that I was working in. And I had an excellent job, and I think I would hope that I left a positive impact on the community that I was serving within. And then following that, I made my way to Oregon, and I'm the DEI and communications coordinator here at Leica. And that itself comes with like a ton of community engagement and culture building and fostering that type of interpersonal interaction that we see at the foundation of so many things. I think one of the things that OU does well compared to a lot of colleges is we produce alum that do like to talk, because in Athens you kind of have to spend a lot of time doing that. It's really kind of an insular community, and you see people and you speak and you hang out, and that's what you do for fun. And not everybody knows how to do that. And I think it's something that's super appreciated when you're able to interact with people who are unlike you, or maybe different sides of the business, and make sure that you can interact with them and pull out those things that make them smile and make them glow, and talk about those at length. I think is something that I really lean into when it's time to do things like host events, or like stoke engagement, or push these numbers, or hit whatever quota that we need to do and in that capacity. But I think it's really important for career exploration to find yourself in an entry level role that you're satisfied with, to go ahead and take these leaps, right? So for example, I spent a summer at a mortgage firm. I was looking for an internship. I was like, just had my head on the swivel for opportunities, and something that I may have liked, may have not liked, but I knew that I needed to try it, because it's better to have an answer than to be left with ifs. So just taking your time to explore all types of things rather than just putting all your eggs in one basket. And yeah, that's what I chose to do. And this is how I ended up there. I really respect the people who specialize and really lean into, what area, but that's never really been me. I'm sure Dr. Aiden and Dr. Miller will attest. I spent a lot of time doing a ton of things at school. I think during my sophomore or junior year, I had about 3 student jobs at once that I was juggling, finding time to do improv and hang out and go to front room and make sure that I was getting my steps in, I guess, going up all those hills. But I think it's just important, if you're going to lean into this community engagement principle, is to be visible, but also with intention, right? Not just to be out and to be seen, but to be out to engage with and contribute to your community in like a reasonable capacity, and doing something that matters and that impacts people. And I think for a lot of us, that are to connect with others and really earnest, genuine capacity for relationship building.
Thank you, Mylan. We are so thankful to have your insight tonight with us. With that, I will introduce our final panelist, Dr. Alex Wiesall. Alex holds a PhD in City and Regional Planning, a master's degree in Public Administration, and in 2012 received his bachelor's degree in Organizational Communication and Public Advocacy from OU. Dr. Wiesall is a citizen of the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians, federally recognized in Michigan and Indiana, and is the elected treasurer of the Tribal Council of the tribe's 4 casinos, 4 Winds Casino Resorts, and is the chairman of the Pokagon Development Authority and Economic Development of the band. He is also the director of the American Indian Relations Division at the Ohio History Connection, where he is leading the organization's efforts to think of new ways of including Native people and perspectives into the work of the History Connection. He is the liaison between the organization and more than 45 federally recognized tribes within the connection of lands we now call Ohio. Dr. Wiesall's current goal is to implement the organization's American Indian Relations policy across statewide organization in its 58 sites, over half of which being American Indian sites. We're beyond excited to have Dr. Wiesall's perspective on service and to hear about his vast experiences.
Thank you, Amy. So bonjour, Alex Wiesall, Des Nakaj, Pokaganik, Potawatomi, and Dow, Mashike, and Dodam, Columbus, Ohio, and Dochbia. So I've just said Alex Wiesall is what I'm called. I'm a member of the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians, a federally recognized tribe in Southwest Michigan and Northern Indiana, part of the Turtle Clan, and Columbus, Ohio is where I live. So I'm going to adopt a storytelling methodology for this evening. Selfishly, I'll be the subject of that, and I will tell you about some of my experiences, and weaving in through there. I hope I guess I'll just kind of bury the lead and say some of my favorite courses when I was in the communication program or communication studies program at OUL. Probably most favorably was debate. I think debate was so worthwhile in that it helps you not only learn about a topic on both sides of it, but additionally, it helps you sort of anticipate what people are going to say And actually that helps with your relationship building down the road. And that, I just can't tell you how valuable that's been to me along the way. Additionally, public speaking, organizational communication, and interpersonal communication has been incredibly helpful, because relationships really are at the heart of everything that we do. That's relationships and community are what make us successful, I believe. It's the people around us that help support us and help us do the things that we decide that we want to do. Whether you're like me and you have an issue always saying yes to everything, or you have incredible imposter syndrome, which I always have. And I'm like, well, should I really be here? Should I really be doing this? And the thing is the thing that's helped me is I just say, well, yeah, if I'm not doing it, who else is? I just need to keep my head down, keep focused, and keep chopping wood to get the job done. So in 2011, I was getting close to finishing. I was close to finishing my bachelor's program, and I was invited to do an internship with my tribe's tribal government in southwestern Michigan. I also was required to do an internship to graduate, which at the time I was very anxious about, because I was like, I got to work. How am I supposed to do this and at the same time get this done? And in the end, it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire lifetime. And I wouldn't have had that had I not been in my degree program. But I moved up to Kalamazoo, Michigan for a summer, and commuted every day down to where the tribe lived, or the tribe is located in a more rural area of the state. And one of my big programs when I was there is I got to create a carpenter apprenticeship program, not because I had any experience being a carpenter or had any real experience with program design, but my boss at the time recognized my ability to listen and hear people, and absorb the information, and then process it appropriately. So he asked me to be a part of this program, and it really inspired me, because what we ended up doing was partnering with a local community college to help my fellow tribal citizens, who I really didn't know, but we're part of the same community, not only get a college degree, which likely they would not otherwise, but get a lifelong career in the carpenter trades. That really inspired me to go on to move to Athens in 2012 and do my MPA program at the Voinovich School. So when I was there, I got to learn about policy innovation, and through undergrad to grad school the first time, I always kind of had an interest in politics. And because of the designing of this carpenter apprenticeship program at the tribe during my internship, I was invited by the tribe to attend a conference with the National Congress of American Indians, where I eventually was elected the co-president of the Youth Commission. So 10 young Native leaders under the age of 25 who were invited to go to Congress, to go to Capitol Hill, to meet with people that a lot of people only see on TV, that I had seen on TV, that I really admired, that I thought, hey, that person is working hard to try to make a difference for people. People on both sides of the aisle, I might add. Put my personal politics aside for this, because it's just kind of cool to be around these people that have been recognized in their own communities to go and represent them elsewhere in the country and try to get stuff done. I really admire people who try to get stuff done. So there, like I said, I was elected to this youth commission, and because I just asked questions and spoke up, my peers appointed me to a national nonprofit board of directors called the National Indian Child Welfare Association. I didn't really have any exposure to in child welfare matters, but I had a little bit of exposure to the need for tribal governments to interact with state governments. So they thought it was a good fit with the organization. And I've been on that board since I was 22. Now I'm, I guess, 32, so about 10 years now. And I'm still on that board, and I really enjoy it, because I got to start as a youth board member. And then when my youth board term was ended, I was asked to stay on as a full board member, and I'm an executive officer on that board. So I really enjoy being able to give back. It I used to always think when people would say, well, I like to give back, I like to donate my time, and I'm like, I've only got so much time in a day. How am I gonna give this back? And it ends up really about developing skills that I think I can take, that I thought I could take elsewhere. And that's kind of why I end up taking on more of these roles, I think, when I was younger. And I thought, well, I could probably translate this into something else, into some sort of career and whatnot. And um, it really has helped out along the way. I mean, just being able to interact with people when we're making decisions about budgets and the millions of dollars, and it impacts people's lives, whether it's on this nonprofit board, whether I'm doing it on the casino board, or whether I'm doing it at our tribal council, the governing body of our tribe. Those debate skills, those organizational skills, those interpersonal skills have followed me around. And one of the things I'm really proud of is that I have a reputation of being able to work with anybody. And in our community, we have folks that are really polished, kind of like myself, that have college degrees, that serve in various leadership capacities in the tribe. And we also have folks that are not polished, that you wouldn't think that I would have that you might not think I would have a relationship just at first glance. But we're all part of the same community, and we're all in this together. And my philosophy has always been, let's find a way to work together and get stuff done. And that, being able to develop a relationship with someone, the interpersonal skills of, having a beer when we're traveling to a conference together, just to talk about things. And, we can connect over the stuff that we've talked about at council that week. That really helped me out. And I think just being humble enough to just try to, ask someone to go to meet with you, to informally, have a beer or something, or have some sort of meeting. I think people really appreciate that, because a lot of times some of the folks that I work with who wouldn't think I would typically work with, they don't get asked to do that stuff a lot. And it takes courage to be able to do that. And it also means that you're showing them respect by doing that. So I think that has really helped me a lot on the way. So during my time on council, some of the public advocacy stuff from the public advocacy courses that I took really helped me out. I got to help. I was asked, because of the negotiations that I was a part of for our tribe with the city of South Bend, I was asked by then Mayor Pete Buttigieg to help him write his campaign plank on our platform for his federal Indian policy. And I'm like, okay, what do I know? I'm not someone who's a genius at this stuff, but I'm just someone who pays attention and studies a little bit, puts in a little bit of work. So I wrote down some of my ideas, worked with a couple of colleagues to write down, help form some of their ideas and put that in the plank as well. And he ended up adopting the whole thing. And some of his policy platforms are what's being implemented in the Biden administration today, which is just crazy to see. But you really have no idea those little seeds that you plant with the relationships with people, or the things that you're doing, what those are going to turn into one day. And I'm very thankful for that opportunity. And I think that I can confidently say I would not, be here talking to you as if I know something. I'm just one guy, again, trying to get stuff done. I don't think I would be on my tribe's tribal council without the support of, my partner and my community around me. And I really wouldn't do it if I didn't know how to talk to people. And I think you folks that are getting your degrees in communication are learning how to do that, how to talk and be in community, and how to be good members of community in ways that I think set you apart from your peers in other programs at OU. So thank you for listening to me, and thank you for doing what you're doing. I hope what I've said and my kind of discombobulated story has made some kind of sense. But I look forward to your questions, and if I can ever be of help to anyone, please feel free to reach out. I think that's how we have to help each other to make things better for everyone. Miigwech.
I think now is time for questions, and we did get some from the chat. So I'll just read them on behalf of our attendees. This is open to everybody. How do you suggest finding a job that you know you will love? There is one along with this that I wanted to add. What's one mistake that you're glad you made after graduation for where you are now?
Well, I would say one mistake that I'm more aware of that I do is, and I already said this once, but I have a tendency to say yes to things, and it gets me into trouble a lot because I find myself scrambling to get things done. But in some ways, that's how I found that I've been able to give back and help move things forward and get the ball across the finish line, so to speak. It kind of helped how I was able to write my dissertation for my PhD. I thought I was going to do one methodology and ended up completely changing it sort of at the last minute, and it worked out really well for me.
I probably say the same thing regarding inability to say yes. I think some of the communication skills that I bring to certain groups are the skills that get me in trouble, I guess you could say. I'm very organized, I'm very meticulous, I want things done a certain way, and a certain way that I know will be beneficial for everyone. I'm always very student focused, and I think because of that, different other groups on campus and things like that say, oh, let's have Dr. Tyus lead, or let's have Dr. Tyus lead this group or whatever. So, I do need to learn how to say no more often. Either that or start messing up so people can stop calling on me for that reason. But for the other question, just quickly, finding a job that you know you're going to like. I think it's all about trying to figure out what makes you happy. I think you want to find a job that's going to make you happy, that's going to make you happy to wake up and drive into work in the morning instead of, oh, I gotta get to work, or oh, it's just another paycheck kind of thing, And so I think the only way to really do that is to test various markets, do research on various jobs, do internships. I didn't know that I was going to be a professor. I thought I was doing my PhD initially to go into corporate communication. And then Dr. Duskudner encouraged me to try teaching on campus. So I taught the last 2 years of working on my PhD, and it turned out that it was something that I fell in love with. Once again, didn't think that it would be something that I would, but it turns out that I did. Now, I'm forever grateful for him for leading me down that path that I wasn't thinking of when I first got into the program, So I just think finding that niche means going out and testing or finding those things that you might actually enjoy.
And just to add to that, so first of all, it's funny that we all have this one thing in common, which is saying yes too much. 100%. When you first start a new job, and I'm not trying to tell you not to be eager and show your enthusiasm when you begin in a new role. That's important. But taking on too much you'll inevitably drown, especially when you're beginning and you're just learning. Take it all in, learn from your colleagues, ask them a lot of questions, but don't agree to do all of the stuff at once. People will take advantage of you. That's really important. And I will also say, as far as finding a job you love, one, I want to say first, I think we should take the pressure off a little bit to find our life's calling right away, right? Like, you guys are still mostly an undergrad. And so that makes you really young. And I'm also very young, I'm only 28 years old. So I have my whole life to figure out what I want to do with my career. But it's okay to get into a role that you don't love. That's okay. You test the waters, figure out, well, I would say first, now with that in mind, before you start applying for jobs, becoming familiar somewhat with the lingo, I would say peruse LinkedIn, learn, okay, when I see communications associate, what does that mean? When I see volunteer manager, what does that mean? As much as you possibly can, try to extract that understanding from the job description. And then we're talking about this whole time, getting out into the community and asking and getting connected to people, asking them questions, people who have been in this field a really long time. Networking is everything. Do not forget it. Like when you get into a role you love, that's awesome. Keep doing that, but don't forget to network because you'll need it. That is huge. And when you ask people who've been maybe a field that you're interested in, okay, well, what does it mean to have a director's title? What does it mean to have to be an associate versus an officer? Do I want to do this type of work? What do you like about it? Asking all these questions is huge. Constantly asking questions, go out, network, but take the pressure off. That's huge.
Yeah, I agree. Saying yes is something that I am also a little susceptible to. I love to agree. I like to be agreeable and be helpful. But you can only spin so many plates. But like Emily said, networking is really important. And don't be afraid to send somebody a LinkedIn message or just do some more investigation. People are often eager to tell people about themselves or what they're doing or help somebody who's earlier in their career stages. And I also think I was really like networking used to elicit kind of a negative response because it's always seemed like relationship building, but with like intention, or you have like an ulterior motive or something, but that's not necessarily it. It's really relationship building, and that can just be you earnestly being interested in with the work that somebody's doing, or trying to initiate some type of mentor-mentee type of relationship with somebody who's further along in a career path that you're interested in. And it doesn't have to be super, sit up very straight, button to the top button, a tie, sort of bury all these fun things about yourself event. You can really just go talk to people and they're eager to speak back. So make sure you lean into that.
Alrighty, I will ask the next question from our attendants. So a person asked, what's a tip you have for talking and interviewing to adults? So this is open to whoever would like to answer it.
I think right now we're in a very interesting place, as in you're getting a lot of canned responses fed to you from like algorithms online, or there's a lot of like, use this in your interview to get a job type of situation. But I don't think those are ever super effective. Maybe the ones where they tell you to spin your greatest weakness as like a secret strength. I like that one just because I think it's fun. But it's really important to let who you are show through your, just like read the person back your resume, or to turn yourself into a bunch of stats and numbers, unless you're going for like I don't know, like a consulting gig. Maybe you should turn yourself into stats and numbers, but make sure that you can communicate that you are a person with a personality and passions and interests, and explaining how the points in your resume have influenced how you show up in your roles, rather than just like letting them exist as stats.
Anthony, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, of course. The question was, what's a tip you have for talking to and interviewing with adults?
Well, I would say you're already adults, so how do you talk to one another? At the end of the day, the people I've hired are individuals that I felt like I connect with, that are real and that are humble. That's what I would invite you to think about when you're interviewing or when you're talking with other individuals. And some of the stuff, I mean, just talking about Alex as the person now, I found TikTok really very entertaining for like when you're looking, like there's a lot of folks on there that talk about when you're looking for jobs, and they give you some really good feedback, and recruiters are kind of using that. So I would encourage you to check out TikTok too, because I think there's some really helpful tips on there.
And I would also say, one, I agree with you. TikTok is obviously a black hole, but I can't help but love it. And you learn a lot from it. I would say, like, look up interview tips. Obviously, you want to do some source checking, make sure that the person that is giving the advice is actually, that they actually know what they're talking about. But social media is a great place to look. YouTube has great influencers that can give you tips about interviewing. Podcasts are great for that in that regard. And I also want to say, so not just talking to adults but, and interviewing with them, but something I want to note is do so much follow-up. You have an interview, email them, like don't be afraid to be excited about it, be on them. The squeaky wheel is the one that always is going to get the call back. And you could even go old-fashioned and call them up after the interview is over, wait a couple days, ask for the leadership. Hi, I'm here. I just had this great interview. I really want this, like really want this role in a more refined way, obviously. And be assertive in a respectful way. You know, if you have an interview that went really well, or maybe you're interested in an organization, maybe you want to work at Planned Parenthood, find people on LinkedIn. Oh, Planned Parenthood looks like a great place to work. Who can I get in touch with to teach me more about this organization? And then that way you have contacts within the organization, so that when you eventually do find a role within that company that you might want and you might want to apply for, you can reach out to them and say, hey, we had this great conversation. Remember, maybe you can give me, you can, tell your colleagues about me. So interviewing is really important. I would say also be confident in your interviews. Yes, obviously be humble for sure, but don't be afraid to, don't have imposter syndrome. We're all going to have imposter syndrome, but don't let it get the best of you. Be confident about your skills, your abilities, what you bring to the table, the need that you are addressing, that you could address if you were to get this role. And like I said, just the networking thing is so important. So that's what I'd say.
Just two things I would add to that is you have to be able to talk to people on the phone. It seems like people today do not like talking on the phone for some reason, or talking in person as much, but that's kind of a core skill you have to have. And then to Emily's point about following up, also get maybe a business card and send a handwritten thank you letter. Those sorts of things matter to people and stick with them more than you might think. And I would highly encourage that.
Well, thank you all so much. We do have more questions, but in respect for everybody's time, I am going to conclude at this time. I did want to quickly thank our speakers, our alumni, for spending time with us this evening. It takes the effort of many to prepare and present these events, so we really deeply appreciate everybody's involvement. As this was our first panel, I think I can gladly say that we facilitated a really informative conversation about community service, relationships, perspective, engagement, and how communication can really do amazing things. I also want to thank the students that are here tonight, because these events are for students to hear about experiences beyond and because of OU and what a career in communication could really look like. So again, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining tonight. And I think this was a great Bobcat-to-Bobcat.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right.